Hi guys, and welcome back to the study hack series. This is the 27th hack in the series, and in this one we're going to look at the idea of leaving questions out, which is quite a common thing that students do. So first of all, I want to start with a quote as usual, and this quote is, "I can accept failure, everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying." That was by Michael Jordan. So this is how you've got to look at the idea of leaving questions out. So basically, why do students leave questions out? Well, imagine they see a question in an exam paper and they leave it out pretty much because they don't know the answer to it, or they can't even think of an educated guess to that answer. Okay, so we'll go through the problem with that. Okay, so just to talk about it from a number standpoint. Let's talk about it from a number standpoint. So obviously you're trying to pick up as many marks in an exam paper as possible, right? The more marks, obviously, the higher the percentage, the better the grade you'll get in the end. If you leave out a question in an exam paper, for that question you are going to get how many marks? 0. Okay? Now, if you try to answer that question, what is the worst possible outcome? 0 marks, right? So by trying to answer it, are you any worse off than leaving it out? The answer is no. Now let's look at the upside or the benefits of trying to answer it. Now by trying to answer it, I mean making an educated guess and try and keep it relevant to the question as opposed to just writing any random stuff, you know? So if it's an educated guess, actually the upside or the benefit could be that you could actually be awarded a mark for that guess or multiple marks by having a go and trying. Okay, so you can see straight away the benefits of actually having a go and attempting a question. You may get, I suppose you could argue, lucky, or through making an educated guess there could be some skill involved, and you can actually pick up some marks in the process which will ultimately help your grade. Okay, so try not to leave out any exam questions in an exam paper. Try to answer it as every single question if possible. Now, another way you got to look at that as well is if you think about why you got to that situation in the first place. In other words, you're looking down at an exam paper and you can't answer the question. Well, it's because you haven't prepared well enough. And actually, I would use that as motivation to study harder and prepare well so that no possible question could throw me in an exam. Okay, so in other words, I'll be able to attempt to answer every single question. And I would think about, okay, the feeling of sitting and looking at an exam paper and not being able to answer a question, and that is just a horrible, horrible feeling to have, because it just tells you that you haven't prepared well, you haven't done all the work beforehand to make yourself well prepared enough to answer pretty much every single question. So you haven't learned all the content, and even in like a question that's outside the box, not related to the content, you haven't thought things through well enough. You haven't understood the content well enough. So you have to use that bad feeling of being in an exam and not knowing the answer to a question or multiple questions as motivation to prepare harder. That's the way I would look at it, and study harder in advance so you don't have to be in that position in an exam. Okay, so that's another way just to view things. So the action step for this study hack would be to try to answer all the questions if possible in an exam. And if you, instead of leaving it out, a question, try to make an educated guess for that, because you may end up actually picking up some marks in the process for that educated guess. And also the feeling of being in an exam and not knowing the answer to a question at all is quite a bad feeling. So try to use that as motivation, so avoid that feeling by preparing really, really well so you don't have to be in that position in an exam. Okay, so please like this video, share it with friends, comment down below and subscribe to my channel so you can keep on getting content, and I will see you in the next study hack.